people who actually got married on, and if we're both still single when we're 35 we'll get married deal. What's your story? We ended up getting married a lot sooner. He wasn't necessarily waiting around for me, but I realized I'd be devastated if he ended up with someone else and no longer had him as a constant friend in my life. Don't let the good ones get away. We've been married 13 years now and never regretted a minute of it. My wife and I had a pact like that for if we were 26 and single. This pact was from middle school, and we kinda went separate ways after high school and reconnected when we were almost 25. We both had feelings for each other and started to date and remembered our pact. But that's not what made us get married. We are extremely happy with each other and even work together every day. We can joke with each other and tell each other whatever is bothering us at that moment and work to figure out a solution. We are a pretty damn good team in life and at our job too. Two of my friends have one of this. I hope they realize they are made for each other before then though. Tell them. I'm just gonna step this way scooches farther. I did. But we got married 10 years earlier. We met at an Ink Master finale. We immediately connected. He lived in New York, Florida. I went back home and we kept in touch. Made a promise if by the time we were 35 we'd marry each other. I was 25 at the time. Things intensified so much we truly believed we were meant for each other. I moved to Illinois to take care of my sick grandma. 3 months after meeting he flew there to visit and we got married. After a few more visits he moved there too. 4 years later and we have 2 kids. If we are still married when we are 36, we'll get a divorce. I recently met a guy who has this agreement with his fiancée. They both agreed that most divorces occur 5-7 years in, so at 5 years into the marriage they're both going to assess the situation and decide whether they want to stay in or back out. Their prenup has something in it that allows one party to leave with their own assets without fault anytime in the first 5 years. It's a strange way to start a marriage, but they're both very methodical people and both like the idea of it. Not exactly the same, but when I was 21 and he was 24 I said to my friend, if we're not married by the time you're 30 do you want to get married? He said no. Well, we started actually dating a couple months after and this year he will be 30 in May and our wedding is planned for June, pending COVID-19 lets us gather 30 people and travel within our country. A co-worker of mine up and left his girlfriend who was also working there, of 6 years to move from ACT to FL to go through with the pact he made with the other girl in high school. I honestly don't know how they're doing. The ex however lost a 185-pound stressor, so I'm glad she's doing exceptionally well. My really good friend and I were joking about this in our early 20s and I got an idea how she really felt about me when she said, yeah, if we're both single at 70 let's get married. You have to make a counter offer in those situations. Come back at her with 40, she'll drop to 60, and then you can both meet in the middle at 50. Kind of. We left our spouses around the same time, not for each other, and decided to share a house. We got to taking one night and decided we each had all the things the other was looking for, plus we got along really well. We were in our mid-30s by then and sick of the dating scene, so we just laid it out like a business arrangement. What started off as an arrangement eventually evolved into something extremely serious and passionate. We've been together now for almost 7 years and married for almost 1. We are extremely in love and I have zero regrets. My dad married at 45. He had known my mom since childhood. They studied together too. My mom often narrates to me tales of how my dad would hit up on her, and when my mom would approach him and ask what happened, he would shy away. Lol. I asked my mom, What took them so much time to marry? She replied it was her decision. She told my dad to get well settled financially. My family weren't always well off. They had their struggles. My mom had suggested that if they are planning for baby or marriage, there should be no problems for the baby. Haha. I am glad that baby was me. My dad makes fun of me by saying, you won't get a girlfriend if you don't succeed. Even if you get, they will leave you if you are unsuccessful. Lol. I am quite sure he does not mean it. Maybe he does it to motivate me to do well. Regardless, I asked him, would my mom leave you if your business falls? He said, acting smart? Huh. She would never leave me. I had that deal with the girl I was so in love with in HS, college. I, an idiot, lost touch and married someone else in my 20s. That went down in tremendous flames, and as far as I know she was still single. We haven't talked for many years. Frown. Weird couple my wife knew had such a pact and followed through. Girl was a really introverted, quiet, homely type. Sweetest girl. But she never had a boyfriend as far as I knew. And we saw her off and on for 6 or 7 years. Then suddenly out of nowhere she invited us to her wedding. Anyways, it was to a guy we had met a couple of times who was one of her friends who seemed very much like her. My wife teased her that more must have been going on all that time. But she was straight up about it, and said no, they just decided it was time. Conversation was something like, yeah, you know how people have pacts to get married if neither of them are till they hit _. Well, we just decided it really wasn't going to happen for either of us, and to cut that short. Basically we were just like, cool? And then left it at that. Anyways, she married him, they looked happy. The speeches were a bit odd, they didn't really talk about love but a lot about how they were marrying their best friend. They are still together, it's gotta be at least 5 years, and they have a little kid. Last we saw them they looked happy, and that's all that matters really.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more stories.